to you by the Communications Authority of Kenya.
Greetings from Turkana County.
We're here in Marsabit County.
Is the Universal Service Fund managed by the Communications Authority of Kenya and meant to improve connectivity in unserved and underserved areas bearing fruit? On our first episode of our 4-part series, we sample views from Turkana and Marsabit.
Napata mapato zaidi kushinda ile wakati hatukuwa na network.
Our local nomadic pastoralists usually call from very far, even where the ambulance could not even reach.
It was meant to achieve a lot more, and I'm afraid the bar is high.
We have only completed phase 1 of the project.
Welcome, I'm your host Alex Chamwada, and we begin with our fact sheet. The Universal Service Fund, USF, which is managed by Communications Authority of Kenya, aims at improving connectivity in the unserved and underserved areas in Kenya.
The other places where people say you have to climb a tree to be able to use your mobile phone, those are the areas that we are really concerned. We want, at the end of the day, everybody to have access. And once everybody is connected, it means a lot in terms of the economy of the country.
Providers consider this to be commercially unviable, so they would rather not put their investment in those areas. So the Universal Service Fund was created to enable bridge that gap and bridge the digital divide that it creates.
It started in 2009 when Parliament passed a bill that we can collect some funds to be able to run that particular service.
The USF is primarily supported through contribution from licensed operators providing communication services on commercial basis. Currently, operators are required to contribute 0.5% of their gross turnover generated from CAS licensed services. As at the end of the 2017-2018 financial year, the total collection was 9.1 billion shillings, including 1 billion shillings seed money from the Communications Authority of Kenya.
Even when the bill was passed, it took us several years to be able to agree with the operators. First of all, to convince them that they must be able to pay a levy which is going to be able to help the fund move forward. And that secondly, how much they are going to be able to pay. Of course, it did not materialize until 2014.
The objectives of the Universal Service Fund are to promote communications infrastructure and services rollout in rural, remote, and underserved areas, ensure availability of communication services to persons with disabilities, women, and other vulnerable groups, to support the development of capacity building in ICTs and technological innovation, to support expansion of communication services in schools, health facilities, and other organizations serving public needs, and to facilitate development of and access to a wide range of local and relevant content. As part of the project, the Communications Authority of Kenya undertook an ICT access gap study to identify the level of penetration of communication services in the country with a view of defining mechanisms and strategies of bridging the digital divide in Kenya. The study also identified a capacity and service delivery gap in Kenya's public secondary school sector. The study further established that 94.4% of Kenyan population is covered by 2G, leaving out 5.6% of Kenyan population with no access to voice communications services. The study showed that 164 out of a total of 7,149 sublocations in the country were totally uncovered, while a further 418 had less than 50% of their populations covered by 2G. The ICT's Access Gap Study recommended 2 priority projects. The first one is the ICT Infrastructure Project to address voice services. The second priority project is the Education Broadband Connectivity Project.
It's an internet project where we provide access to internet to public learning institutions. So it would mean secondary schools. We also intend to cover some tertiary institutions. But currently we have done 896 secondary schools who are now able to access internet, and that means they can be able to get digital learning.
The Education Broadband Connectivity Project is being implemented through a proposed collaborative framework between the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology and the Communications Authority of Kenya. Regarding the Voice Gap project, mobile network operators were invited to bid to improve connectivity in 202 sublocations. Only Safaricom Limited and Telkom Kenya participated, and they bid for only 78 out of the 202 sublocations.
What we call Phase 1 project intended to cover 78 sublocations, and we've now covered 66 of those Phase 1 project, and that covers over 300,000 people.
Safaricom Limited was awarded 50 sublocations and Telkom Kenya 28 sublocations.
What the Universal Services Fund requires us to do at the minimum is provide connectivity. This means someone can be able to make a voice call. And that is what we call 2G coverage, second generation. This is the first kind of connectivity that we started with, I would say, when GSM came into the country in 2000. We must be able to at least allow people to make a call and receive an SMS.
This is going to provide telecommunication services to areas where operators would not have gone to in a few years because of return on investment. So I think in itself, it is actually a noble idea and project being driven by Communication Authority.
Every Kenyan, wherever they are, so long as the model, you are underserved in an area, you qualify for this fund. So let's not have a tokenism approach because we have gone to the most remote and we feel that the people there are wonderful because they have seen internet for the first time and we feel the fund is great. It was meant to achieve a lot more, and I'm afraid the bar is high, and so it must be achieved.
Now, 22 years ago, I was a correspondent for KBC during the 1997 general election here in Turkana. And I would travel several kilometers from location to Lodwar town to get a booth in order to make a reverse call to KBC Nairobi to file my stories. But today, mobile telephony is doing wonders.
Hello. Umesikia tuko na Alex Chamwada.
How times change, how things change, and Turkana County is not totally in the dark as far as mobile communication is concerned. And meet Jacinta Ngataparin in Lokangai sublocation, Turkana West constituency, who shared with us how she has benefited from this technology.
Nasema hii simu inanisaidia kwa ajili ya hata mtu wake kama uko mbali, kama uko na malaria, atanifikia. Kama mtu wake nasikia njaa, lazima upikie mtu wake.
Yuko kwa shule ni thamani kalna. Kijini
hata mtu yake nasoma mbali, nafikia simu mama, nasikia kitu fulani.
Yes, Lokangai is one of the sublocations that have benefited from the voice infrastructure project, and currently only about 45% of the population in Turkana County is connected to the network. This particular booster was put up by Safaricom Limited. At a dispensary in the same sublocation, community health workers can't wait to tell their experiences too. But first, how was life here before they were connected?
It was terrible. It has been terrible indeed. At times, people, maybe they experience maybe problems like, let's say, a snake bite, a serious snake bite. But due to
lack of communication. They could not even call for an ambulance because we usually have an ambulance here at our health facility. So it becomes a very terrible thing. You couldn't know who is suffering a few kilometers away from the health facility. Currently, we are very happy because network is all over. People call in case there is an emergency, then we respond positively.
Lokangai is located some 143 kilometers from Lodwar, and a road drive will be close to 3 hours. But on administration matters, the schools report to sub-county offices in Kakuma, some 60 kilometers away. Before this booster was erected here, there were challenges in communication.
So we used to get second-hand information. Maybe from Kakuma, somebody can come and a very distorted information.
Sometime in June 2019, disasters struck this village, flash floods, and this school was not spared.
Somebody alerted me from Kakuma that floods are coming, so I just informed the learners so to go to a bit raised place. And also, after that, I gave out the first-hand information to the local leaders, our politicians, and also our county government officials. So we took photos and we sent them at the right time. So these NGOs, they also came to try to know, they wanted to know so that they bring humanitarian aid in terms of assisting those victims who have been affected by the floods.
All that thanks to the power of communication.
It has also contributed to our learners because some of the things from we download, some essential programs that we see, it is benefiting these people. We try also to show them when we are handling some lessons. We show them like wild animals.
Our adventure in Turkana County continues, and after a 5-hour drive, we stop in Nakoret sublocation. Here we find a busy village market. Traders and buyers tell us business has been made easier because of connectivity. Ruben Lotaparin is the only mobile money entrepreneur here in a makeshift kiosk.
Ninaweza fanya hii kazi kwa sababu ya network, na niliona shida ya watu pande kwenda kusafiri Lodwar. Pengine mtu alikuwa na shilingi 200 kwa simu yake na angeweza kusafiri Lodwar kwa shilingi 200 sababu Lodwar ni mbali, ni kilomita 150.
A few meters away we find an ongoing baraza, and in the middle of the baraza the assistant chief reflects on the challenges they went through when there was no network.
Sisi hapa awali tulikuwa katika hali mbaya, maana tulikuwa tunapigwa na majirani zetu, walikuwa tu wanatoka huku kwao mpaka hapa, lakini wakija hapa wanatuibia mali, wanatuua, wanatukimbiza. Lakini pile tulipata network, hatujawahi kukimbia mpaka saa hizi. Wanajua kuwa wakipatikana hapa tutaweza kupamisha serikali hayo mambo, na serikali inaingia haraka sana.
The booster that serves this sublocation is located at Nakoret Primary School.
The entire community is using the network because they have purchased the phones and they are now able to communicate everybody. All the parents are able to communicate. If there is any information, instead of me now writing letters to them to attend the meeting, I just send to them the message of the meeting, then we meet.
For internet, we access something to do with NAMIS, that's updating on teachers. Then for internet again, we use maybe for learning purposes, if we need to access some information over something.
The school gets some rent from Safaricom Limited for hosting the booster. And guess how the income has been used?
That money we have been using to do some repair on the lighting system. So even at night, the children are able to get the lighting system, and also even the preparation, the lesson we have. If it was not taught during daytime, then we do the remedial teaching by using the lighting system. It has improved the performance. From previous performance up to now, it is now improving.
Here we meet a teacher who is an ardent follower of this show.
The Chamwada report.
Kutoka Turkana.
There you are. I need to be updated. You need to know what's happening in the country, especially in matters of politics. Yeah, you need to know about something like the handshake, what is happening there, because they test those things. They test which parties are there.
On that note, we take a short break. When we return, we will join my colleague Michael Zimanji, who is in Marsabit, to tell us his experience there. Welcome back. This is Connecting Kenyans, a 4-part series that began today, and we'll be looking at the experience of marginalized communities as far as communication is concerned. In part 1 of this episode, we focused on Turkana. Time now to join Michael Zimanji, who is in Marsabit, to get a feel of what the communities in that county go through.
63% of the population in Marsabit County now has network access. And this is all thanks to the communication mast, like this one behind me. So we are here to interact with some of the locals and understand how these communication masts have improved network as well as impacted the livelihoods of these people.
Marsabit County is known for its vast arid landscape. As we travel through the most remote parts of the county, we experience kilometers of tough terrain and extreme weather conditions. There is little to no infrastructure here. So you can imagine our surprise when we met up with Mzee Legesen, busy talking to his son in Baragoe on his mobile phone without any connection issues.
I speak to him 4 or 5 times a day, yet he's so far away.
Mzee Legesen has lived here in Gurunet his whole life with his family.
Back in the day, there was no means of communication. We would just sit or go out and hunt for animals.
This is, however, a thing of the past, thanks to the construction of 4 new communication masts in Gurunit, Pichau, Karare, and Balesa. The project has seen over 13,000 people in this area gain access to improved communication network. Stephen Leamo is one of these beneficiaries. He is responsible for safeguarding the new communication mast at Ngurunet and admits that since its construction, the livelihood of the people has greatly improved.
Some sub-locations walianza kupata network kwa hii hata mahali mbalimbali kama Ngurunet, kama Mbagas, kama Sarai, Mpang walianza kupata network na wote walifurahi na tunapigiana, tunawasiliana vizuri. Wakipotea somewhere tunaenda kutafuta, baada ya kupatikana unapigiwa simu alafu watu wanarudi. In case there is a patient ambaye kwa mgonjwa, tunawasiliana na wale wana MRA, hata wale wa Exams, wale wa Ngurunet, alafu wanakuja na magari ama pikipiki na peleka hospitali.
The improved network coverage has also had a positive effect on local businesses.
Telecom aja. Mimi nausa hapa laini ya Telecom, nausa credit pia ya Telecom na pia niko na M-Pesa. Kama kuna mtu ananihitaji ama kuna vitu vyangu imetuma kutoka nje huko kwingine, so inawakuta wanapata kwa urahisi kwa sababu kitambo wakipiga hata simu yangu wanakukuta wakati mwingine sipatikani na simu yangu iko on. So saizi wakati niko na Telecom kwa sababu iko hapa nyumbani na booster hapa iko karibu kwetu, so inakuta wanaweza kunipata wakati wote. Nani? So acha ajaribu kesho. Sasa.
Ambrose, who has been running his business for 5 years now and is the only shop in this area selling airtime, says that the improved network has eased the way he carries out business.
Saizi naweza kuoda tu niko hapa kwa sababu naweza kupiga simu, ambaye tumanua na parcel na napata hapa nyumbani.
Sentiments that are shared by Fenesi Komboi, a green grocer locally referred to as Mama Mboga at Karare Market.
Napata mapato zaidi kushinda ile wakati hatakuwa na network. Sasa hata ukitaka kesho na sasa kupiga sasa simu kesho nataka kitu kama hiyo. halafu anatutumia. Hata ukiuza, ukitaka kutuma pesa, tuko na M-Pesa hapa. Na sasa tukuuza, halafu baadaye jioni unatuma pesa kwa M-Pesa.
Despite the improved connection, there are still some areas without network coverage as well as other challenges.
Unakuta watu hawana simu, so una register line ndio kisha tena unapatia hawa ambao wanaenda kuweka kwa simu yao. Na kuweka line kwa simu hawajui pia kutumia. Unakuta ni moto ndio haitoshi ambaye kuweza kusustain hiyo network. So wakati mwingine usiku unakuta wakati mwingine haifanyi. Na unakuta mchana inarudi.
Despite all these challenges, residents here are thankful for the Universal Service Fund project that they say has now connected them with the rest of Kenya.
It is a relief. When the children go far, we can now keep in touch.
Imeleta faida kwa community, kwa kuajiri watu wa hii community, ni wao ndio wanachunga, na kukusaidia community wawasiliane na watu kutoka mahali tofauti mbalimbali.
Sasa tuko na mwaka 2 kama tuko na network. Sasa tumekuwa afadhali.
From business to education, healthcare to security, the use of mobile phones is quickly becoming part and parcel of day-to-day life. And with improved network coverage, Marsabit can now add itself to the list of counties that are benefiting from this. For the Chamwada report, my name is Michael Zimanji. Back to you, Alex, in Turkana.
Great. It was a pleasure having you in this first episode of our new series, Connecting Kenyans, in which we are focusing on the experiences of communities in marginalized areas as far as communication is concerned. In this first episode, we focused on Turkana and Marsabit counties. Join us next week as we pitch tents in Bungoma and Kitui counties. On behalf of the Chams media production crews that made this production possible and our broadcasting partner, KTN News, thank you so much for watching.
We license and regulate mobile telecom operators, TV and radio broadcasters, postal and courier operators. All this to open up a world of choice for you. Game iko juu na CA, the Communications Authority of Kenya, CA, opening your world.